Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hugnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. Really where you might want to go right off the rip here is ThunderCast.Online, because we are hot and heavy into the portal season and we are tracking them all, brother. So if you're wondering what's going on, who all's leaving, who all's coming, who all's decided to come back after deciding to leave, it's all right there at the ThunderCast.Online Portal Tracker. Russ, I know you're real proud of that one because you put a lot of work into it, and it's been really well received this cycle.
Well received does not even come close to saying what it is, man. Yes, I am proud of it. I know for a fact, don't have every single person listed because I won't list them until it is 100% verified. And I don't mean by like 24/7 or On3 or ESPN or something like that. We try to go straight to the source as much as we can, and you'll see we quote tweet people when they do things. And but yeah, it's pretty damned accurate for little old me, little old us.
Well, I feel like that's kind of the way to go. You know, if somebody is out there saying, "Hey, I've entered the transfer portal," well, that's official enough for me. You know, I'm not going to wait on. No offense, I don't need the compliance department or anybody to tell me, right? I'm going to take the word of the athlete that they're in the portal. So that's what we're going to go with. And, you know, we're not trying to create any enemies. We're just trying to get the info out there because herd fans are curious, and they're more curious this cycle than they've been in several cycles because, of course, it's a whole new coaching staff, and there's some news on that front, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But, you know, I guess it's probably just a good idea to freaking talk about the momentum that Tony Gibson is bringing to the Shoey and this Marshall football program, because far too many people are still kind of focusing their attention elsewhere, you know? Yeah. And it's just a dawn of a new day, dude. Let's embrace that. The sun has set on one era and it has risen on another era. And that's the one we need to focus on. And we're going to talk about some of these guys that are coming out of the portal now. You know, we talked about that a couple weeks ago. You got to go in before you can start getting guys out. And now we're starting to get some guys out. So I want to talk about some of that. I want to talk about the coaching news that we've feel good about talking about. You know, there's still pretty hush-hush out there. So we're going to talk about some of the things we feel pretty good about. But I'll tell you what, we might as well deep dive into all we're going to deep dive after we get ourselves a word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
I also want to say that it's been a fluid type situation for us at the ThunderCast. And once again, I want to thank Jed, CEO of Ignite Link, strategic partner of the ThunderCast, for stepping in and well, hell, I mean, just running with it, you know. Yeah. He's doing a great job. You guys are doing a really good job. I hope fans are enjoying that third voice added to the team here. You know, it's really taking a lot off of my plate, which I personally appreciate. You know, my life is a lot different than it was a year ago, and it's hard to sit down and bring the quality of a show to the folks that I want to be able to bring. So for Jed to step in and say, you know what, dude, I got you. We'll make it what folks expect it to be. We'll keep the standard high. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you for, you know, kind of concocting this idea to where it would all work for everybody. So big ups to him. I hope that just continues. Honestly, it's a great angle.
Well, for now it's going to, and that's what I was going to say. It's really, really great to have you back. But it's really great to have Jed on as well. And I think moving forward, what our fans that watch and listen can count on is pretty much 2 shows a week now. You and I doing the big news, the featured stuff, and Jed and I doing the 5 things and around the herd segments that keep everybody up to date on everything. Because there's plenty of discussion with plenty of news to go on in that realm too. And we're handling that once a week, and you and I are handling the other once a week, and the fans just get 2 shows out of it.
Yeah, well, that's pretty, and you know, all of our great sponsors get twice the exposure. I think this is really kind of a win-win. You know, a lot of folks like a shorter type show, and it was really hard to condense, you know, because we just have so much stuff we want to talk about.
Yeah.
And we really pride ourselves on talking about the entire athletic department when we can, and we don't want to short and slight anybody, because everybody works their asses off at their particular craft and discipline, right? And yeah, it ain't much, but I want to talk about it. You know, I know it doesn't amount to a hill of beans really to that athlete that's out there busting their ass hour after hour in the weight room and in the pool and on the court and all. But still, I feel like it's my responsibility as a fan to at least do my part.
Yeah.
Speaking of doing your part, this is also a great opportunity just to remind folks, since it's a new era of herd football, Tony Gibson is hitting his stride. You know, I mean, if you've been on social media at all, you have seen the portal news, the rebuilding of a roster that's going on in Huntington, West Virginia. There's a lot to be excited about, I think. But the way you can help the most, aside from, you know, buying tickets and going to games, which is the easy part, everybody likes to do that, is like, please, man, join the Big Green, please. You know, it's so cheap. It's Christmas time. I'm going to say this every time, man. It's so cheap, and it's a good gift. You know,
how cheap is it?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's as little as $5 a month that you can set up on an auto draft system, and it's $5, dude. You'll forget all about it. You know, but if you really want to, if you can, I've been thinking about this, and you know, there's not like a creative marketing ploy behind all this, and yeah, we're going to say $5 a month because that's so cheap, and it's so cheap that I find it hard to believe that 100%, if not 99% of the people can't afford $5 a month. But I get it, but you don't have to just do $5 a month, man. I'm thinking, like, you know, if you can set aside $40 a month or $50 a month. You can be at a $25 level at the Big Green, and you can be at a $25 a month level with the Thunder Trust, and really just make an impact. I know that doesn't sound like a lot of money.
No, it does.
But I mean, on like a personal scale.
Oh, sure, like, sure.
Oh, my $20 isn't going to do much. No, it's not. But there are 30,000 seats in Joan C. Edwards Stadium. You know, and if you multiply that $20 times, you know, 4,000 or 5,000, or God help us, 10,000 or more, man, that really starts putting some money in the bank. And I'm a donor. You know, I never shy about saying this. I donate what I can. I'm not writing $1,000 checks, guys. I'm a regular old dude. You know, I'm a regular old dude with a wife and kids and bills, just like everybody else. You know, it's like I just happen to get on here once a week and sit down with my buddy, and we talk about the herd. You know, and I put it out there for everybody else to listen to. But other than that, I mean, literally hundreds and thousands of you have met me and seen me at tailgates. I am a regular dude, you know. So it's you can find a little coin if you want to, and I hope that you would want to. You know, we see the importance of NIL. We see the importance of joining the Big Green and offsetting the cost of scholarships and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just gonna ask you, because I feel like sometimes people just need to be asked. I'm asking you, do me a favor, join the Big Green. Click the link, right? Talk to our buddy. Talk to Devin, you know. Talk to the guys at the Thunder Trust. What can I do? Where can I get in? How can I help? There is a level for everyone out there. You know, there really is. There's a level for everyone out there. We know we're never going to be Ohio State, not in the current climate of college sports, but we can be the best damn Marshall that we can be. You know, that's really what it's all about. A little personal responsibility and chipping in where you can.
My contribution to what you said there is to let everybody know that wasn't on that Spaces, the post-game Spaces after the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. We were talking a little bit about NIL and the Big Green and things like that. And one of the participants, you had asked the question, what is a reason that you might not join or you might not be giving right now? And there was some discussion about kind of being unsure about who did what and where that money went and everything. So I just want to break it down very simple. 100% of the Big Green goes to scholarships, and that's it. And not just football, not just the revenue sports, every scholarship. So that gets dispersed amongst all sports. And that allows the athletic department to not have to spend money on those scholarships. So they get to spend it elsewhere. And that's where they could have more money for coaches. That's where they could have more money for facilities, because the Big Green is taking away part of their responsibilities for scholarship money that needs to come in. NIL, that just goes to the athletes, but we're not talking about $1 million and giving somebody a Porsche like you're going to see at the big time schools with those crazy TV revenue contracts.
Or like they actually claim is happening. That's what they're claiming they're getting, and what folks are actually getting are sometimes two different things. So don't get caught up in all that stuff. What we're trying to be is the best program that we can be.
Yeah.
And we need every fan that supports the Herd to support the Herd by going to games and being a donor. I know that might not sound important. Like $5, who gives a shit? Well, it matters.
It does.
It just matters. It really does. That's $5 less that Marshall has to pay for a scholarship, because you're like, hey, you know what? I can chip in $5 a month on a freaking scholarship. That's really what that is.
Yeah.
And, I'll be honest with you. I don't give much more than that. I don't, because like I said, I'm a regular dude with a regular job and a family and, all that good stuff, just like the majority of our listeners. So I'm not out here preaching. I'm not out here telling you to give $20,000. If you can and you want to, great, do that. If you feel like you've got the loot and you want to endow a scholarship, awesome. Freaking do that, man. They would love to talk to you about an endowment. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to do that, but I can't. I'm a regular dude. Right. But I just think now with all that's been surrounding our football program and all the news and all the fan engagement and the negative and the positive, it's a good time to remind folks how they can get involved. Right. Just go to Herd Zone, click the links for the Big Green. They make it really easy. Phone numbers there if you want to call somebody. You can email somebody. I mean, dang, if you want to DM us at the ThunderCast and say, man, I want to get joined, we'll walk you right through it. You can join. The links to all of that is in every description of every show that we've ever published. Right, the Big Green link's down there. The Thunder Trust link is down there. We need your support. We need your help. So think about it this holiday season. Put the Herd on your list as well for an extra $5, $60 on the year. And Russ has said this so many times. The Herd Perks card will make you your money back if you live locally. It really will. And if you don't live locally and you come in town for a couple of times for a game or something like that, you use it when you go out to dinner, you use it when you go buy some gear, you're going to make a good chunk of that $60 back on the year anyway, just for a couple of visits to Huntington and going out and spending the money you're going to spend anyway.
15% at Quinn's. So, I mean, if you go in and spend $100 on a couple of shirts, which is not hard to do, you're getting $15 back right there. 15 of your 60 you just saved. So that's, if you don't live in town, you can still make, one trip, you can get a large portion of it back just by, like you said, one dinner out at a place. We've got a lot of places, man, that these vendors that make having a Big Green membership valuable. We need to praise those people a lot more. But man, if you went to Tik Tok Tire and had service done and it's 10 or 15% there, that can rack up quick too.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah,
we've talked a lot about this. Reach out to us. We'll put you in touch with the right people. If you don't want to look up and see who it is, Alicia Parker Webb, for the endowments. She does that all day, every day. Somebody's wanting to do that. So if you don't know who that is, reach out to KD, reach out to me, and we'll put you in touch with the right people. But Marshall needs to grow, and there's no better time to do it than right now.
That's right, man. We want to grow our donor base. We would love to double our donor base. We would love to do that. We would love to push north of 5,000 donors. We would love to push north of 10,000 donors, but we're willing to crawl before we walk, and we're willing to walk before we can run. So we're very much a grassroots outfit. Obviously, Russ and I are very much a grassroots outfit, and I believe in that. Your buddy telling your buddy, "Hey, man, you joined the Big Green." No, well, you ought to. Why not? It's $5, dude. Let's do it right now. So enough about the commercials. Help where you can. I mean, damn, we need all the help we can get, and I don't say that in a negative way. It's just there's always room in the herd for more help. But I want to talk about the momentum that is coming around this program, because there's been a lot of doom and gloom in a lot of people's eyes and ears for the past week-ish, and we all know it by now. Coaching change, fine. Players portaled out, I got it. New coach hired. That's the big thing. I watched the press conference. I listened to the man speak. I could tell in his voice that he was freaking thrilled to have the job. And I think that's the number one thing that is going to cause fans to have a snap decision on a coaching hire. Does he actually sound and look like he wants to be in Huntington? And Tony Gibson, to me, looked and sounded like he wanted to be in Huntington, right? That is a big hurdle to clear. And I think that's going to start to mend some fences inside some hearts of some Herd fans. You've got a guy that wants to be there. Now, don't play. Now, again, don't be playing wait and see. You wanted that. Now he's here. So you got to get on board now and show that support from the beginning, right? Those guys, he talked. He said, we've been working on our staff, but I hope they're out recruiting, and it's been real quiet. So we can talk about a couple of things right out of the gate here, Russ. And I'm going to leave it to you. Do you think would you rather start with what we feel good about talking about with the coaching staff, or let's do that? That's a good.
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, some stuff's out there, some stuff speculated, nothing outside of the retaining of defensive line coach Ralph Street, all-time Herd great, has been really announced. There's been some national sources that have said this is happening or that is happening, but as far as Herd Zone graphics, we haven't seen that, right, outside of Ralph Street being retained. And I think immediately people latched onto the comment when Tony said, I'm going to go get guys that are from here. I'm going to get guys that played here. That's the kind of coaches he wants to go get. Now, I think some fans immediately thought he was going to go hire an entire staff full of former Marshall players. I did not think that. Immediately, what I thought was there's going to be a mix of former Marshall players. There's going to be a mix of just West Virginia born coaches. And then there's going to be some other guys that have been here before and, are coming back, or just some young guys that are cutting their teeth on their first jobs, just like anybody else. I did not take that to mean exclusively Herd alums would be coaching here. How did you perceive that comment?
Pretty much the same as you. Others have said this probably better than I would have articulated on this. And after they said it, I was like, oh, yeah, because I was at the press conference. But basically they said he was going to get those players, these coaches at these positions if they made Marshall better. That if it was a Marshall tie, hey, that's just all the better. But he was going to get people that would move this program forward first and foremost. And if they had a tie, great, yeah.
So, and that's the best example of that is Ralph Street, because Ralph Street could go anywhere just about in the country and become a defensive line coach and make that team better. He just happens to be a Marshall guy. So he's going to continue to make our program better, continue to put out stud defensive linemen and develop elite talent like we've seen on the collegiate level for a number of years. right? And look, collegiate talent to me doesn't have to mean pro success. You can be an elite collegiate player and not have a stellar pro career. That is not that those two have nothing to do with one another as far as I'm concerned. But everybody's question, I think, was what's the offense going to look like? We knew what we had last year. We kind of liked it. News came out that Seth Dagey got the job at Arizona, so he was not going to be returning to Huntington, whether that was a possibility or not. That just got removed from the equation pretty quickly because he accepted a P4 job. Well, now you're like, all right, well, what are we going to do? And then news started swirling that it was going to be Rod Smith. And a lot of people were like, all right, who's Rod Smith? I don't know if I know that. Well, he was offensive coordinator last year at Jacksonville State under Rich Rodriguez. He's been with Rich Rod at a number of stops. And I think the main selling point coming to Huntington was he's going to have full control of the offense. And it was reported by Football Scoop that he was at least offered to go to Morgantown and coach, but the way they put it is he opted to join Tony Gibson's staff at Marshall and will have full autonomy of the offense. And that's got to be a big perk, man, because we know Rich Rod calls the plays in his offenses. So you're going to get control of your offense? That's a huge perk, man. So what do you think about that one right out of the gate?
Well, I'm going to throw on my big old speculation hat that I haven't put on in a long time. And I'm going to say that at some point in everyone's coaching career, they need to go out on their own sometimes. And how would it feel if even if you were the greatest offensive coordinator ever and someone said, yeah, but he's never done it without Rich Rod, he's never done it without Rich Rodriguez. So maybe it might be hey, time to prove. It also might be, hey, I played football with Tony Gibson. We were on the same college team, and they've coached together too, but they actually were players together at Glenville. And I think, here's an opportunity to come in and prove everything, and just to have that opportunity probably meant quite a bit to them. To be able to do that, this is Tony's first head coaching job, so to be there to support that, but also to say you've got complete control of the entire offense, do everything you want. So now there might be a couple of wrinkles that he didn't get to put in before, because he didn't have 100% control. I don't care if he had 90%. That 10% can change a lot of things. So I think this is an opportunity for him to come in and say, here's what a Rod Smith offense 100% looks like, and I'm going to prove that I can do it without just doing it on somebody else.
Well, it's a good point, right? Because we were hearing similar things 2 years ago. Remember about our offense? It's like, well, we want to do this, but the powers that be are saying, nope, you're going to do this. And we saw that there was a kind of definite difference in output and production. It just so happened to be kind of in a negative fashion for us, where it may not have been for other teams. I think if you have aspirations of being a head coach one day, you have to do it you have to go down a different path at some point. You have to go down a different path. And the history there, like I would like to think if I had a really close pal that I had a lot of history with and he was a coach, he would be like, hey, let me call him, because he's been with me. I know the kind of guy I'm getting, right? Because X's and O's is X's and O's, right? Yeah. And you don't ascend to these levels in the FBS without knowing your shit, right? But it's a whole lot about knowing the guy that you're going to go work with too, and that's 2+ decades of history together, off and on and crossing paths. And I'm excited about that, because for all that Rich Rod is, he's a good coach, man. He's like always puts an exciting offense out there. Like I will not dog him for that. He is a good offensive coach. Jacksonville State was a conference champion, man. They just won Conference USA. So to be able to take coaches from a conference champion, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, that's what people are saying, except we're on the other side of that coin. Look, how did this happen? How did that get pulled off? And we know the particulars behind that. We don't need to talk about it. But that's kind of what we're doing. We're taking coaches from a conference champion coaching staff, and that's a pretty big deal. It really is. Let's round out this offensive staff with the biggest name that most folks are going to remember. He's going to, what we have been hearing, going to be coaching tight ends. We'll cover everybody that we know about. And that's Gunter Brewer. Most recently Virginia Tech Director of High School Relations, but most Herd fans are going to know Gunter Brewer because he was the wide receivers coach and co-offensive coordinator at Marshall in the freaking best time to be that, 1996 to 1999. Can you imagine being the wide receivers coach? Dude, I don't know how anybody can tell you anything. It's like, I was wide receivers coach at Marshall from 96 to 99 and co-offensive coordinator. And now he's back on staff coaching tight ends with Tony Gibson. Look, I don't even need a deep dive into that one. That's just awesome, is it not?
It is. And, he's gone all over the country in about, let's see here, almost 40 years.
Yeah.
2 more years, he'll have 40 in, it looks like. It's just a who's who of where he's been. He's been successful everywhere. It's not like he's gone somewhere and they're like, you're terrible, you're fired after a year. Everybody comes in, or he comes in and everybody's like, this guy knows receiving.
Right.
He was, we got him 10 years in, and everyone was treating him like he was a 30-year seasoned guy while he was here. He just happened to be here Moss's first year, but it wasn't because of Moss was not the only reason he was highly thought of. He is great, man. To have him as a tight ends coach, I feel like this is one of those, because he's a former, at least co-offensive coordinator and did that with us before. It's just another offensive mind that even if you're not the offensive coordinator, but you're sitting there and you're picking each other's brains in an offensive thing. And Rod Smith says, I think we're going to do this. And Brewer just says, well, what if we tweaked it with this? That's the kind of thing that I like to have former coordinators at some level in there, is they don't just have their position down. They've got a grasp of an entire offensive thing. So with Rod Smith, what he's done, Gunter Brewer with what he's done, we've only talked about 2 right now. Right. And I'm so excited about what we might be seeing.
Yeah. So let's move right into the running backs coach. We lose a good one. We know we lost that Coach Lockett was a good running backs coach. But rumored to be entered, Rod McDowell, running backs coach, who was at Jacksonville State. What I've seen on the internet is several sources saying a real up-and-comer, like one of the next-gen best running backs coaches in this new wave of coaches.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at it, dude. I'm not mad at it. He played his college ball at Clemson. So playing at a really high level as a player, and then moving into the coaching ranks, and now you're a young kind of hotshot dude. I think that carries some weight. You're still young. You can still talk about, well, Clemson's still relevant. So you can still talk about that when you go into living rooms and you're talking to prospects and stuff like that. And yeah, a conference champion just this season. So I don't know much about Rod McDowell, but I will say that I'm excited that it looks like a potential kind of under the radar rock star has entered the Shoey.
Yeah. And, he was there at Jacksonville State underneath Rod Smith. So bringing in familiarity already, I think that's just going to help implement the system. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, of course, it's familiarity is the name of the game now. And that's goes with, players and coaches and coaches and coaches. It's familiarity, and you bring your guys and you try to get as many of them as you can, or at least the ones that fit what you want to do the best. We do not know, or I have not seen a name at this point associated with the wide receiving coach position. There are some names out there that aren't associated with a position yet, but I'm also not sure if they're just not like offensive analysts or defensive analysts or things like that. But we have heard a name for offensive line coach, and I've got to say, before we talk about who that is, I got to give a shout out to Cody Creel, man, because he did a phenomenal job this year, and I was really hoping that he would, be retained. I mean, I like the guy. I think he did a phenomenal job, and was even recruiting for us there for a while. And I know he's going to land on his feet. He's too damn talented not to get when somebody finds out that dude's on the market, he's going to get snatched up immediately if he isn't already snatched up. But I just wanted to give some shine to Cody. He was really great in his 1 year here. I really felt like he liked being at Marshall. I think he liked what we were all about, as in a fan base, as a program, as a community. I think, and I like that. And in a future, at some point down the future, if he happens to find his way back to Huntington again, I damn sure wouldn't be mad at it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But who we've heard has been tabbed for the offensive line coach position is Coach Bob McLean, right? And Russ and I, we were talking about this before we hit record. Is like I know that there are a shit ton of coaches out there, and I don't know all of them, but we are operating in relatively small circles here with the all the ties with these coaches, and I'm just unfamiliar with Coach McLean. But we did do some digging, and we found out that Coach McLean has served as an offensive line coach with Rod Smith at several stops throughout their respective careers. Mm-hmm. Coach McLean is going to come to us from what does he call it? What's it called?
California, but it's not the California that's like the California Bears. It's a college in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Prior to that, he was at Illinois with Rod Smith.
Yeah. So in 2019, he was O-line coach, I believe, with Illinois when Rod Smith was there. So this is another guy that's got big name stops on his calendar or on his resume. So it's not just we went and got an NAIA guy or something like that. No. Yeah. He's been.
No, this is his latest stop, but he's been at some pretty famous offenses, and he's followed Rod Smith at least 3. This may be the 4th time I think that they've been together. So very, very familiar with his system.
Yeah. So again, it's familiarity. It's being able to package up an offense and bring as many of the parts with you as you can. Funny enough, it's not really funny enough, but there's not very many offensive players coming out of Jacksonville State that have entered the portal that have committed to Marshall. I imagine some of them will end up in Morgantown because that's where their head coach went. But interesting to see how that ultimately plays out. Let's switch over to the defensive side of the ball. We already talked about Ralph Street. We've got a line on 3 other assistant coaches. We do not have a line on a defensive coordinator right now. There are some names floating out there, but it's all speculation at this point. But let's talk about the one that Herd fans are going to know the most, and that's who we believe is going to be the new safeties coach. A familiar name, and breaking his own record for stops with the Herd, the all-timer, man, Shannon Morrison, back in the shoey. Glad to have Shannon back. He was, with the Herd in 2023, part of that group of coaches that got kind of overhauled, and I'm glad to have him back, dude. Great dude. Yeah. Marshall to the frickin' core. And I know there are a lot of alums and a lot of former players that are going to love seeing Shannon back in the shoey for what, a record 4th or 5th time now?
I think it's 5th or 6th time. And I don't say that to be funny. I'm just trying to be accurate.
I think it's awesome, man.
Yeah, I do too. And it just shows how much he wants to be back here, that he keeps coming back. And he's been coach here for some great teams.
Yep, sure has.
And
played on some great teams.
Yeah, I felt like he did a good job as our linebackers coach the last time he was here. And it just seemed like kind of short end of the stick to get gone, but he was only gone for a year, and now we're bringing him back. So welcome back, and everybody loves Shannon Morris.
Hell yeah, everybody. Shannon Morrison, man. It is really glad. It's great to have him back, man. Him and Street on the same defensive staff again. Just it makes sense to me as a Herd fan, and all of my Kelly Greenness everywhere. It makes sense to me. Tabbed as linebackers coach that we have seen is Jake Ellsworth. He was defensive quality control at NC State. So there's your young buck getting his first, maybe his first. I don't know. He might have been a position coach somewhere else, but he was defensive quality control at NC State. Now he's going to be a full-time assistant for the Herd. Of course, it's that NC State and Tony Gibson connection, and he's going to be coaching. I'm surprised he's coaching linebackers. I thought Tony's probably going to be involved. He's got a passion for linebackers, man. He was DC and linebacking coach down there at NC State and had been for a long time. And, he's going to have his finger very much on the pulse of that room, I would imagine. But you get a young guy to come in there and try to make some waves. What do you think?
And I think that this is another one of those instances where if Tony was the defensive coordinator and he's the epitome of what a guru would be for a defense coordinator. He's been doing it very long time and successful at doing it. For him to recognize and bring someone from his unit that wasn't already like a linebackers coach or something like that, I don't think that he would pick somebody in his first stop as a head coach that he didn't think would be up to the task. Because why would you? That's not when you throw someone a bone. That's not when you reward someone, when you're in a good position. He wants to win right out of the bat and just show, hey, I can do this. So he's going to get someone that fits what he thinks his linebackers need to be doing. So that excites me. That everybody on this defense that he's going to put there, he knows will do what his vision is because he's a defense guy. Rod, take care of the offense. Do whatever you want. I'm over here with the defense. I know these guys. And for him to pick somebody like this and for them to get their first position coach job, I think that speaks very highly of this guy.
Well, and we just talked about Shannon Morrison being back on staff, who was linebackers coach with the Herd just a year ago, and he's coaching safety. So there's got to be something here. There's something to this. Last one that we know about is cornerbacks coach, Jared Holley. Looks like he's coming to the Herd from Abilene Christian. Another one of those guys that is really kind of talked about in these circles as a really great young coach. So I think he's been doing a hell of a job recruiting because I keep seeing his name pop up in these DBs. I mean, we had a run of DBs yesterday, like three commits in a row, and he was being tagged in those. So he's doing some work already for the Herd, and you got to love it. So I think the only thing that we're missing right now, Russ, is of course a wide receivers coach. We're missing a defensive coordinator to be named. I think a lot of people are on the edge about that one. But I am always curious of who the strength and conditioning coach is, or whatever title you want to give them, the equivalent to the strength and conditioning coach, because that is one of the most, if not the most vital coach that you have in an off the field, like non-game day role, except it is a game day role because their conditioning and their preparation is on display on game day. But no coach spends more time with them during the off season than the strength and conditioning coach. And we had a good one. We really did. I liked BA. He was a very intense individual. I think he did a hell of a job here. We've had a few, between the great,
Scott Sinclair.
Yeah, Scott Sinclair. I was trying to see if there was another one after him. But he's the greatest. There have been more. I was thinking like one that, but it's Scott, and I think it's BA for me. And there were a few guys in between there, obviously. But
here's what I have seen a lot of, that we have taken some people, especially when we've had a coaching change or something like that, and we've taken some people that were not a strength and conditioning coach, like the head person, but they were like in the program. Or maybe even, doing the non-football sports, but they were down there, and they got a name for him, and that coach brought them in, and they did a great job with being over it all. And BA fits the mold on that. I can remember when Doc came, Frank Pereno, if you remember him, he ended up going on to Temple with a couple of the other coaches, but he was another one that fit that. Joe Maide was here, and then went on to Louisville, if I'm remembering correctly, and became their strength and conditioning coach. We've had a good stretch of some good guys, but I do think BA was a really good one.
Yeah, he was, and that carries a lot of weight with me. I'm just curious, as far as my interest level goes, that's one for me that carries a lot of weight. Some other guys that we're going to mention, we don't know where they fit in yet, but we have seen them associated with this new coaching staff. Theron Ake is back. He was here before. And a youngster by the name of Daron Wilson we've seen tagged in a few commitments. So we don't know if these guys are going to be position coaches, if they're going to be analysts or quality control or anything like that, but just some names that we've heard.
Well, I tell you what we can say is they are going to be on staff somewhere because they have it in their bios. But two, they've been out recruiting, and that's the important thing. So I don't care what their official title ends up being and what position coach they do or do not have in that title. What I do care is they brought in some players, and that may transition us into talking about what we're going to talk about now.
Yeah, no, I think it's the perfect time to transition into that. But that is your coaching staff as we know it to this point. And, of course, nothing is official, and pretty much anything outside of Tony Gibson changing can change. But we feel really good about those, and we just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on what we know is going on or what we think we know is going on. But man, it has been a really good week, couple of, week and a half or whatever of recruiting. The roster is starting to fill out a little bit. The I hate to use the word flood, but the flood of portal out has ended, it seems, or at least eased to a trickle. But it wasn't just here. It was a flood of portal outs everywhere. But, now we have – that has stopped, and it's time to start adding pieces back. And this staff has been hard at work, man. And I think we're making some waves here. I really do. It all got started way back when. It seems like forever ago because this guy might as well be on the freaking coaching staff now. But it started with linebacker Jalen Parker. He came from NC State. He's a grad transfer. Dude's been like the lead recruiter for every single person that's out there. I mean, he's constantly on Twitter talking about, hey man, come run with us. Hey man, join the fam.
Somebody says they get an offer, man. He's right on top of it.
He's like, what the hell are you waiting on? You didn't commit yet?
Yeah.
He's hard.
I'm pretty sure he called one of them roomie, So.
He did. Yeah, he did. Like, dang, you already moved in and you didn't accept the offer yet? That's pretty good. But no, he's been real active. I thought it was really cool that just kind of randomly he asked everybody, like, what's your go-to order at Tudor's? Yeah. Like, this guy's getting it, man. I
need to go buy that guy a biscuit.
He's getting into it. So let me do, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It looks like 8.5. Defensive commits because one guy is played a little wide receiver and safety. We don't know really where he's going to end up, but 8.5 and 1, 2,
5.5,
3, 4, 5. Well, 4, 5.5.
Yeah.
Offensive. Yeah. I don't really care about those numbers right now on the side of the ball for whatever reason, but some of the names are very familiar and should be familiar to Herd fans. Some names are going to be familiar to just local football fans in general. And some guys are just intriguing as hell, So we talked about Mr. Jalen Parker and all the recruiting that he's doing and all that good stuff. I mean, good dude. I'll tell you what, I'd like to have that guy on the show and just like talk to him. Yeah. He sounds like he acts like he'd be a really good time just sitting and chew the fat with on the show for a little bit. But hey, if you're listening, Jalen, I don't know if you're checking the show out, but if you are, hey man, we're game. Line it up, get the approval from coach. Whoever else you need to do, we'll talk to you. Next along the line came running back over from UNLV, Michael Allen. I think he was. Now, look, I didn't write all this stuff down. I really just have a list of names, so I'm going off memory, and we know it's not that great. But I want to say that he was redshirted. He got injured early in the season with UNLV and ended up redshirting. Is that right?
No, partially right. So he was at NC State when we played NC State down there. And he transferred last year to UNLV, and he played either 3 or 4 games with them. And he was one of 4, I think, on the same day, including their quarterback, that stopped and went in the transfer portal. And a lot of things were swirling around about, was it NIL and all that. He actually put, this is not about NIL. I was never promised anything about NIL. Has nothing to do with it. It was about opportunities on the field, number of carries, things like that. He was told from his side that we're going to have this, and it just wasn't there. So he said, I'm not going to waste my year and just sit here and do this. So he decided, I'm going to enter the transfer portal and go somewhere where I can play.
Okay, so no injury, just a business decision, basically.
Yeah.
So so that's intriguing. So you get Jordan Houston last year out of the NC State backfield. You're going to have Michael Allen, who was in the NC State backfield when Jordan Houston was in the NC State backfield. Both potentially could wrap up their careers in a Herd uniform. What a weird little tie that would be. Next on the big green truck was offensive lineman Peyton Ellis. He comes to us from East Texas A&M, tips the scales at 6'6", 310. It was really nice of that dude to put on that extra 100 pounds between the time you tweeted.
Yeah, for everybody that doesn't know, I can't type without looking at the keyboard, but sometimes I don't. That means I'm not looking at what's going up on the screen, and I accidentally hit the 2 instead of the 3. So I had him listed as 210 pounds, and some people were like, "What the hell?" And one of them was Peyton Ellis himself. It's like, hey man, sure it was a typo, but I'm actually 310. And I'm like, so I just tweeted out, it's like, in a show of dedication, he's already bulked up to 310.
No, that was really, really good. That was the best worst case scenario there. That was awesome. But 6'6", 310. You're rebuilding an offensive line this year. We know we're getting Jalen Slappy back because he came back and said, dude, I ain't done. I'm coming back. I ain't going freaking nowhere. That's a big piece to have returning. And I mean that literally and figuratively, because he was very important to this Herd offensive line this year. So, but you're going to have to rebuild it, right? Logan Osborne exhausted eligibility. Announced yesterday that, in fact, he's not going to make a run at the NFL. He is medically retiring from football. So we wish Logan Osborne the freaking best in the next chapter of his life, whatever that may be. Absolute Herd all-timer. Love that dude. Somebody buy that guy a beer anytime you see him in Huntington, please.
I'm going to make a plea, too, that Marshall reaches out to him to have him just be some kind of an analyst for a while, just be part of this program. And because, sometimes offensive linemen that are above and beyond, that are directing this offense and these rooms and things like that, they make hella coaches. So I'd like to see him get involved in that and stay around the Herd.
Yeah, that would be really nice, man. He's just we had 3 this year, and there are more. But 3 major players that ended the career with Marshall, and JJ's making a run at the NFL. I love that. That dude has a real chance to stick because he's just got a nose for the football, and I think if he lands in the right situation, he can stick. I mean, look, we said the same thing about Najee Johnson, and Najee has stuck in Kansas City, and has worked and is playing regularly. And JJ's the same type of player, he may be more ball hawkish than Najee was. Mm-hmm. And I love the hell out of that guy. JJ's really got a shot. And of course, Mike Green, he's got a legitimate shot to be a first-round pick, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I'd be shocked if he isn't at this point.
I don't know. You know, that Marshall really hangs over their head for some reason when it comes to it. But you go out and you dazzle at the combine, you dazzle at a couple showcase games or something like that, and it's going to be hard to deny him. You know what I mean? Because it is. But I'm just saying, Logan and JJ and Mike Green those three guys are going to be intertwined together forever as conference champions, guys that left Marshall campus legends, and for this era of fan, this current student. These are their legends. These are three of their legends. You know, we toss around names like Pennington and Leftwich and Moss and Brown and all these guys, but they were legends for us. And they're legends, all-time legends anyway. But we saw them play live. We know what that was like, right? Well, these young students now didn't see those guys play live. They see these guys play live. So they're on those short lists of all these. They should have banners hanging at the Joan too, you know, in the concourse when you see the Rogers Beckett's and all these greats, the Doug Chapmans and the LVs and all those guys that are awesome that you watched. These three guys are intertwined together as conference champions, as all-time greats, and you could have multiple NFL draft picks among them. You know, it's just awesome. But anyway. Back to Peyton Ellison rebuilding this Herd offensive line. So Logan is gone. Several other guys that we had speculated or heard that had entered the portal, and we just couldn't verify it or not. We don't know. So anyway, it looks like you're gonna have to rebuild or at least rebolster. You know, you need depth, all that kind of stuff. You sure as hell can't get mad at 6'6", 310. I'll tell you that. Fourth guy in the truck this cycle is a guy that was here 2 years ago. Jaleel Riviera Harvey, defensive lineman coming off the 2023 season, I think. He portaled out and went to WKU, was there for this year, and now he portaled back and he boomeranged right back to the Herd. So a guy that has worked with Ralph Street already. So Ralph knows what he's got in a guy like Rivera Harvey, 6'2", 298. Love the size. Gotta like it. And then another offensive lineman, Bryce Biggs comes over from WVU, 6'4", 305. He's a Spring Valley guy. Another local high school great. You know, he was great.
Originally from Ashland, moved over on that side of the river, play ball, Spring Valley. 6'4", 305 plays, man. That's good. He's going to be here for 1 year. Comes in as a grad transfer, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I've got it here. Grad transfer, 1 year of eligibility. So, you know, been around the offensive line for a long time. Good guy to bring in. Even if he doesn't end up being the Logan Osborne type to start and win a bunch of awards, you need guys 6'4", 305 that's upperclassmen. You know,
I just think it's important that the more of these great players from Spring Valley and Huntington and Cabell Midland that you can get, that it tells those next generation of guys from Spring Valley and Huntington High and Cabell Midland, you can do it right here. I get the draw of wanting to venture outside of your hometown, dude. I get it. JJ did it, and he'll probably be the first one to tell you, man, it's a great decision coming back to Marshall. You know, I walked off the field a conference champion. You know, I walked off the field as an all-time great for the Herd. You know, you can do it right here. And I'm going to give you a quick nugget about Bryce. It's been many years ago. They were 13, I think. So my son played, when we still lived in Huntington, my son played 1 year of travel baseball, and Bryce was on his team. And that cat was big then. You know, like Kyler's always been tall. And Bryce was bigger than him then, man. So it did not surprise me that he would go on to be a Division I football player. But great family. You know, like again, it was very short sampling of time. It was one summer and a couple of, you know, road trips to games and stuff like that. But my wife and I would, we chatted up his family a few times in the outfield while games were going on. So they're just great people. So it's not just a great player. You're also getting a great family. And what would you expect from folks from this area anyway? That's what you expect them to be. A name that really folks are going to recognize comes to us out of the portal from NC State, linebacker Cannon Lewis from Cabell Midland. So back-to-back West Virginia kids that were really, really high performers at the high school level. Cannon was a big time recruit that went down to play for Tony Gibson, you know, and he redshirted last year. So you're looking at a potential of a 4-year guy at Marshall if he exhausts his eligibility here. I love that, man, because you have, as much as Bryce can bring to the table, it's 1 year, right? But Cannon has the ability to be here for multiple years and potentially 4 years. You can begin to create that campus legend status for yourself in Huntington, just like Logan did, you know, and just like JJ did. And dude, the pipeline coming from Cabell Midland here over the past, I don't know, decade-ish is really pretty nice. It really is.
I know a couple of things. One, Tony Gibson actually did a lot of recruiting at Huntington High and Cabell Midland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I imagine Spring Valley as well. But I know another thing is when I read the senior stats for Cannon Lewis when he was a high school senior, 181 tackles, 90 solo. I mean, if you get 90 tackles a year, that sounds pretty daggone good. And he had 90 solo. Also added 4 sacks from the linebacker position, 18 tackles for loss, 3 fumble recoveries, one of which he took back for a touchdown, and he also forced a fumble. He was the team captain. All that sounds like what you want to have in a linebacker.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that tracks and it translates. If you got a nose for the ball, you've always got a nose for the ball. And it's not like the speed of the game obviously is going to get faster from high school to college, but these guys also develop, you know, and it just happens that he was able to develop under one of the best linebacker coaches in the country in Tony Gibson, who just so happens to be our head coach now, you know, and he's going to be working under Jake Ellsworth, who was defensive quality control at NC State, now the linebackers coach at Marshall, along with teammate Jalen Parker. Like, this is really starting to fall together, and you would expect it to fall together if it was going to be at one position, it's going to be at linebacker, right? Because all these things start to add up. So really, really thrilled to have Cannon Lewis here. I'm not gonna lie. When we first announced Gibson as the coach, I went to the roster and I was like, all right, which linebackers are potential targets? You know, like who's gonna leave? And I didn't know that Cannon Lewis was down there, and I was like, well, this guy's from Midland.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, if he goes into the portal, he wasn't even in the portal yet. And I was like, man, if he goes into the portal, I hope, you know, that it's specifically to come here. And I don't know if it was specifically to come here, but he did enter the portal, and bam, here he is right here. So really, really thrilled about that. Next on the list is the guy that was doing some double duty at NC State, a little bit of wide receiver, a little bit of safety. That's Jacoby Baldwin. Intriguing prospect. We're not sure if he's going to play offense or defense or both or special teams or whatever. But versatile is a word I guess you can use to describe Mr. Baldwin. And then it was the run of DBs, Russ. 3 straight defensive backs.
Yeah, and this is where I'm pretty pumped.
Well, let's talk, then lead the charge. I'll get you started. The first one in the truck was the defensive back Boogie Trotter from Tennessee State. Now, look, check me on this. I don't know if you know. Is Tennessee State where Eddie George is coaching?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, man. I thought so. I mean, one doesn't have to do with the other. I just wanted to make sure I was right about that. And then you got DB Daryl Sweeting comes over from Temple. And then finally, DB Tavon Nelson comes to us from Maryland. So we did a little flip-flopping of DBs there. We sent one to Maryland. Maryland sent us one back. So there's your trio: Boogie Trotter, Daryl Sweeting, Tavon Nelson. Now, what do you got?
So I'm really pumped about Boogie Trotter, Dwayne Boogie Trotter. First team All-American in FCS for Tennessee State in 2024. Recorded 61 tackles. 42 of those were solo. 1 sack, 3 fumble recoveries, 3 interceptions for 151 yards. One of those was a 69-yard touchdown, 67-yard touchdown, something like that. 8 passes defended. 1 season of eligibility remaining that I'm guessing. You know, he could shock me and have 2. But for me, it's those interceptions and the runs afterwards. That shows me, and I've seen some of his tape. He himself said something like, I am swift and I'm violent, or something like that. You know, he's like talking about his closing speed and everything. And it just really shows me that we may have a budding superstar back there in the defensive backfield. One of these guys that if he gets an interception, he's a threat to take it to the house. He's definitely going to look to flip the field. And that is something that I really, really like.
Well, we've seen some high-level play here in recent years from DBs, man. You talk about Stephen Gilmore, and you talk about Micah Abraham, and even Josh Moten, right? I mean, we're used to seeing some things now here, you know, and even before that, it was, you know, Chris Jackson. I mean, we're used to seeing some really disciplined defensive back play, right? And I'm with you. It's like you don't make All-American by accident. You know, you got to be excited about that. And if this is the dude's curtain call, if this is the curtain call season, motivation level is off the charts right now to go out and put your best season on film ever. And he had a really great one last year. If you can replicate a part of that this year, this upcoming season, that you're going to be a real impact player. You're going to be that type of guy that takes away half of the field and forces an offense to rethink what they want to do, you know, because you're over there. I mean, if you're giving nightmares, if you're causing headaches, that's what I want. That's exactly what I want out of my DBs. So what do you got for these other guys?
Well, you look at Nelson here, 6'1", 205. I think that's great to have that size and everything. He had a bevy of schools from all the quote unquote Power 4 schools before he committed to Maryland. And he just didn't get a chance to play there last year. And I'm really looking forward to it, because how many times have we seen, someone didn't get a chance to play and they come here and they get that chance and they thrive. One that comes to mind very, very recently, Mike Green. You know, he did not play at Virginia. Or if he did, it was a snap or two here and there, you know, and then he comes here and you just see first year, you're like, wow, this guy's got something. And second year is an all-time year. Am I saying this guy's going to do what Mike Green did? No. But these last two guys here, Darryl Sweeting and Tavon Nelson, both did not get a chance to play at their respective schools this past year. And you have to think that they're brought here for a reason, for Tony Gibson as a defensive-minded coach to bring him here. They see something in him, and they definitely got the good size. You've got 5'10", 180, 6'1", 205. Boogie Trotter's a little bit smaller, but how athletic he is at 5'9", 180. Gibson's going to be running that 3-3-5, and you're going to have a lot of good defensive backs to do a good 3-3-5. So yeah. I'm just really excited for it.
Yeah. It was just surprising to me that you got a little run, 3 in a row right there. Bam, bam, bam. And I'm like, all right, man, we got some. I kind of see what we're trying to do here a little bit. Then we move into a couple of wideouts that I did not see coming. You know, it was especially one in particular I did not see coming. First was Antonio Martin, comes to us from Mississippi State, loves the build. I know you like the height, the length. I think he's 6'3", 190, something like that.
I've seen him listed anywhere from 6'3", 6'4", up to 200 pounds.
Okay, so I know you like that size, you like that length, you like that. Well, I like that SEC ability. You know, if somebody down in the SEC country likes you, I think there's a reason for that. So
I've also got him listed as a wide receiver / tight end, and here's why. He went there as a wide receiver. He had a lot of different schools looking for him. People thought he might go to Ole Miss, actually. He ended up at Mississippi State. He was a wide receiver there. He went there to play under Mike Leach's air raid. And, you know, Mike Leach unfortunately passed away. College football and life in general really took a bad hit when Coach Leach passed. Well, they've had coach after coach after coach I think 3 years in a row after Mike Leach was there. And they moved him to tight end because he had size. And that was the only kind of place that they could put him because they didn't have a good tight end situation.
So that's interesting.
And then he was going to go back to wide receiver for this past year, and he didn't play at all. But he had been nursing an injury right before spring practice and everything. So he was going back to wide receiver under the new coach, but he didn't get to. So he can play either position here, but you know that he's got to be athletic to be able to do both. That means he's got to be able to block well. You know, he's going to be a mismatch, in my opinion.
Well, that's interesting because I would like to think that you're going to have to build out the wide receiver room more than the tight end room, because we know, at least for now, Toby Payne is on the roster, and you know, all signs point to him returning again.
Yep.
And he was easily the primary tight end weapon for the Herd. Now, I'm not saying we won't utilize multiple tight ends. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying you kind of know you got a stud there at the tight end position, whereas you know you have several seats you need to fill in the wide receiver room, which stands to reason why you get two in a row here with Antonio Martin from Mississippi State, and then a name that we became really familiar with during his high school recruiting because he was recruited heavily by Marshall, and that's Tony Martin. Comes to us now from Western Michigan, but famously, you would probably know him better as coming to you from the Martin family, as in Hall of Famer Tim Martin for the Herd. So it was really surprising to see Tony just commit. I didn't even see his name floating out there. You know, I'm sure he said he was in the portal or whatever. It's just I didn't see it. I wasn't looking for it. But the first thing I saw was, bam, committed. And I thought, awesome.
So he originally committed to Marshall, and then he decommitted and went to Western Michigan, and he was there a redshirt a year and then didn't get to play much last year. And so now he'll hit back to Marshall, even though he never was here on campus that I know of, but he had committed to us previously. So now back with the Herd, probably where he has always been destined to be. And so Antonio Harmon, back to him real quick. I know what you're saying about the tight end room there. I think that he's going to be more on the wide receiver, route running and everything. He'll be in that group, but he's the kind of guy that you can slide over for a 2 tight end set and not have to even bring in a sub, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You don't have to change personnel much.
Yeah.
You just
So that's kind of where I was leaning with that, and I do think he'll be a mismatch nightmare if you can do that. Think about that without having to change, so you don't give the defense time to change their personnel, and then you just slide him over into a tight end position, and he's going up against a linebacker and he's a wide receiver. It really could be a big electric moment for us to have a tall receiver like that that's physically strong, got the blocking ability of a tight end, that sort of thing.
I think you could actually do that with both of our guys. You could actually play that kind of the kind of smoke and mirrors game with Antonio Martin and with Toby Payne. That'd be pretty
Antonio
cool
Harmon.
Oh, I wrote down Martin.
It's Antonio Harmon, and Tony Martin is right after him, so it's easy to do. But yeah, Tony Martin, Tim Martin, Hall of Famer here, wide receiver. You know that everybody's got the chops from him, and it's not just that. He's Tim's son, he must be really good as a wide receiver. It's not just in the name. Tim Martin is a pretty famous speed and wide receivers coach, not for any specific team. He just trains athletes all across the country, but definitely from down in Florida all the way up the East Coast. That's the thing, that he's been doing that, probably coaching him up since he was little, running. Here's how you run routes. If you're doing that as a coach for everybody, that's goes to say you're going to do that for your own son. So,
well, of course, yeah. And we close out the big recruiting weekend, at least up to this point, with a couple of defensive linemen. Tyus Martin from Jacksonville State transfers in, 6'4", 330, and defensive lineman Katron Evans from Charlotte, 6'3", 335. Dude, I think we're trying to build some run stuffing lanes here, man. I'm not too sure about it, but I'm just going to use my context clues and see 6'4", 330, 6'3", 335. I think we're trying to plug some holes in the interior defensive line. I'm just saying. I think this is the type of thing that Herd fans are like, hell yes. These are the kind of pieces that Ralph Street looks at and goes, hell yes. You know, if I've got a 335 and I need to be able to, this isn't Vince Wilfork, you know what I mean? But this is going to play. This is going to track right here. You know what I'm saying?
You got to have run stoppers. You got to have big nose tackles in a 335 because you're sacrificing one of your defensive line to go with a faster, smaller unit flying all around the field. We did it last year. We did a 4-2-5. We sacrificed one of the linebackers to put someone back in the backfield. Well, this is taking one of your defensive lines. So you've got to have those big guys up there. You got to have the guys that are going to get double teamed. You got to have all that. So getting two big guys like this, it really, really is needed in this defense.
Yes. So say all that to say this. It was there was a fair amount of despair, a week ago, let's say. And just as we, tried to say, this is not an I told you so moment, but just as we tried to say, you got to give them some time. You got to give our coaches some time. Hell, we had to hire coaches. We had to go get coaches to then go get players in the portal. We didn't have the luxury of retaining half of the staff or having to only replace one or two assistants. This was a wholesale rebuild. And I like how it has started. We are not done. We are by no means done. 14 players is not going to a roster make. We've got a lot more holes to fill. There's going to be a lot more skill position players that have to come to Marshall during these portal cycles in order to make us instantly competitive in the Sun Belt next season. There's going to need to be more linemen that come here, and I expect that they will be, because if we've learned anything, we've learned that it's not just about the fall portal session. You're going to have spring graduates. You're going to have guys that go through spring ball and don't like where they ended up with their current situation, and they're looking for a better situation. You're going to find guys that just want to change. And we're going to go through this again in 2 months, 3 months, and then we're going to go through it again at the end of April. And then we're going to go through it again at the start of summer. And, and then you got to deal with guys that don't graduate until the summer. And then you've got more prospects that are available. So this is really a marathon. This is not a sprint, but damn, this is a really, really good start to rebuilding back a Marshall football roster. It also gives you a glimpse into the identity of what this team might be versus what it has been in years past. Not a knock either way. I'm not saying comparison either way. It's just saying, a coach wants to build a team in his image. Mm-hmm. And we have a different coach, so you would expect it to be a different image. That's all there is to it. The one thing I will say here, lastly for me, Russ, I don't know if you've got anything else you want to talk about, but the last thing I'm going to talk about here, here's what you don't see on this list of prospects that have committed to the Herd. You don't see a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I would like to remind everybody, while you're out there, tweeting at every single quarterback that enters the frickin' portal, we have a damn good one who's on the roster here that was very, very highly recruited. The number one quarterback in the state of West Virginia, a dual threat guy, which we know we need to run a Rod Smith offense. You've got Ja'Kai Long sitting right there, who has not portaled out, who has at least waiting to see how everything shakes out, right? But don't just look past this kid, man. This kid is good. He's really good. And there were a lot of people, if you'll remember back to the spring, last year that were like, wow, he's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good.
There were a lot of people that thought that he was better than Braxton or Earl, that he had the best spring out of everybody.
Correct. See, but that's the short memory that a lot of people have. You don't always have to have the flashy quarterback that went into you can win with the guy you have.
Yeah.
And I don't know who our guy's going to be. You know, I have no idea. But I'm just saying, if you don't start seeing a quarterback show up, or even if you do see one show up, that don't mean shit, really.
Yeah. Let me remind everybody, or educate some people that may not know, but there were a couple of even Sunbelt schools that brought in a transfer quarterback, and they were kind of highly touted, and they came from bigger schools, and everyone assumed, hey, this is who we got. And they did not win the starting job, and a younger quarterback from within the system was the one that got it.
Yeah.
So a couple of different Sunbelt schools. JMU's one. Dylan Morris went down there. Now, I know that he got injured and everything, but he was not the quarterback that they had all year, and they had a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
J.C. French kept the Georgia Southern job, even though Indiana's quarterback, I can't remember his name now, Williams the second or Williams the third, and he ended up portaling out after beating us in that game, and doing the same thing 3 or 4 weeks later to another team coming in late. But there are some highly touted quarterbacks that are going to be in the system or in the portal that will come in, and they might not come anywhere close to beating out Chicago.
Right. You might have your next great herd quarterback already in the building right there. Yeah. So you don't just look past him, because he didn't play. He was redshirted. He was redshirt freshman, man. It's like, you brought in 2 guys out of the portal last year, and I mean, we can start to put the dots together. It's like contract year, no contract. I have to win this year. Wholesale offensive changes. I need to go. I understand the thinking. You don't want to put that in the hands of a freshman quarterback. I get that.
True freshman,
right?
And starting off with your first 3 games is at Virginia Tech and at Ohio State.
Right. I get that. I understand the thought process, because there's a lot of money to be made or lost if the season goes right or wrong, as it played out and we see. But that still doesn't mean that he wasn't better than one of the guys that, was there, or a couple of the guys that were already on the roster. Look at it as, hey, man, he preserved an entire year of eligibility to benefit Marshall completely and benefit himself completely. He's a year older, a year bigger, a year stronger. He's familiar with the college game. He's familiar with the demands of the college life and the workload and everything, all of that stuff. This kid's special, and he deserves the opportunity to compete for sure, and he damn sure deserves the opportunity to be the quarterback without fans out there drooling over the next great thing that's in the portal.
Yeah, let me say that this will be my closing words if we're going to talk about something else. All right, so I'm just going to say this. This is not a knock on anybody on Twitter or Facebook or message boards or whatever, but it happens all the time, and it's not just here at Marshall. Mm-hmm. So this is not a knock on anybody specific, but how many times have you seen that every time we sign somebody as a commitment, automatically they act like it's Walter Payton or Bo Jackson? This is the best that has ever been anywhere in the country. That's him. People have changed their handles or created new accounts to be like that person, and just like, hey, we're taking this guy to the moon. They might not see the daggone field, man. Mm-hmm. Everybody down at James Madison, because we were wanting Dylan Morris here too, if you remember. Everybody was talking about Dylan Morris coming here. I don't know that he threw 15 balls all year. And everyone just needs to kind of temper expectations. And as you said, we might have the quarterback right here. You've not seen him with any stats because he was redshirting for a reason, mm-hmm. But he's got the talent, and there were a lot of teams that wanted him, and there were a lot of people thinking, well, heck, I hope we can keep Ja'Kai, hope he doesn't transfer out. Well, he didn't. And he's here. Yeah, he didn't. And he was here. And guess what? Local kid, son of a herd legend.
Yep.
You know, he checks all the boxes for me. Obviously we need to see him in some game situations and everything, but everybody that I know that watched him play high school ball knows that he's got the talent to do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just fans hoping that he does a good, it's guys that know what they're looking at, you know?
We're talking about referees and coaches that are telling me this, not just somebody that was sitting in the fan or in the stands.
Right. Well, look, great episode. I love talking about this stuff. I could talk about this shit all the time, but I wanted to do a quick episode. We still did an hour and 20 minutes. So I tell you what, just take us the heck out of here so we can get going.
Yeah, whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Jack, or whether you see us over at ThunderCast.Online with the Transfer Portal Tracker, no matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go Herd. It's the ThunderCast. We'll see you next week. Russ and Jen will see you next week, and then maybe me and Russ will see you next week. Later.